Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Alicia. Welcome to the family. Today we're going to be talking about all of the books that I read in March. March was a really productive reading month for me. I read a total of 15 books across the thriller, sci-fi, and fantasy genres, with one contemporary book thrown in there. So for those of you who may be new, this video will be divided into separate sections. We'll start off with these stats, then I'll go ahead and talk about the books that I DNF'd, and then go into the books within each specific genre. So if there's something that you're more interested in, go ahead and look at the timestamps down below. They're always linked down there. So yeah, without any further ado, let's get right into the video. So I actually decided I'm going to split this video in half just because there are a lot of books to talk about and I don't want this video to be like an hour long. So I will be talking about the contemporary that I read this month along with the thriller and sci-fi books that I read, and then I'll make an entire separate video for the fantasy books that will be going up next week or later on this week. So let's move right into the stats. So in the month of March, I read a total of 15 books. All of those books were fiction. I didn't read any nonfiction in March, which is really unusual for me. I usually try to read 1 or 2 nonfiction books a month, but I was so overwhelmed and I only ended up reading fiction. But we're gonna change that this month, hopefully. So today's trash day and recycling day and compost day, so trucks just keep coming by, so I do apologize if you do hear that in the background. But let's see, I read a total of 10 fantasy books. I read 3 thriller books, 3 sci-fi books, and 1 contemporary book. And in terms of format, 7 of those books were audiobooks and the rest were physical books that I do own. And I know I usually include star ratings in my stats, but I'm trying to move away from star ratings because I know certain stars mean different things to different people. So instead I'm going to try to articulate my thoughts more thoroughly and let you know of different characteristics of the books that may suit you or may not suit you, and then you can make that determination on your own. So why don't we start off with the books that I DNF'd in the month of March. Didn't have any hard DNFs in the month of March. These books are just more of a DNF for the moment. So why don't we start off with The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I did go ahead and start this in March. It was actually the first book that I picked up in March, and I got about 80 pages in and then never picked it back up again. Every single time that I tried, I just found it to be extremely boring. I wasn't captivated by the plot, by the characters. Every single time I tried to pick it up, I fell into a reading slump. So I decided that maybe I'm just not in the right headspace to read this right now. So I will be putting it off until I do feel like reading it. When will that be? I don't know. We'll find out, but I will let you know. The next book on this list is The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hall. The only reason that I'm not continuing with the book this month is because I did have a TBR for April and I'm trying to stick to my TBRs as much as possible. I did enjoy Assassin's Apprentice. As you can see, I only got about 1 or 2 chapters in, but what I did read, I really thoroughly enjoyed. So I'm going to pick up Assassin's Apprentice right after I'm done with the books that were on my April TBR, because this is one that I'm still genuinely intrigued in and that I really want to continue. I just couldn't squeeze it into April, and I unfortunately didn't have the time to finish it in March. So I will be delving back into this series once I'm done with my April TBR, so early May or something like that. The last book in my DNFs is also The Buried Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro. This is another one that I was thoroughly enjoying. As you can see, I got about halfway through it. I just didn't have time to finish it in March. I had a very ambitious March TBR, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to finish these 2 books on that TBR. And now I'm trying to tackle my April TBR before the month ends. So this is another one that I will be picking back up along with Assassin's Apprentice to finish, because I was thoroughly enjoying both of these books. So those were the 3 books that I sort of DNF'd in the month of March. So this month I thought, instead of talking about books from highest or lowest rated, I thought I'd talk about them based on their genre. So why don't we start off with talking about the only contemporary that I read this month, and that is going to be Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. I did listen to this in audiobook format and it was approximately 4 hours long. I found this book to be extremely refreshing. I actually really quite enjoyed it. In Convenience Store Woman, we follow our main character, whose name is Kieko, and she's been working at the same convenience store for about 18 years. Kieko is someone who is often misunderstood, and she is a little bit of an outsider. There's this one funny scene right at the beginning where we're talking about Kieko, and she sees a woman crying, and she thinks to herself, how can I get this person to stop crying? And she's like, oh, I know, let me pull their skirt down and then they'll stop crying. And so that's what she does, because in her mind, it's logical. If we pull this woman's skirt down, she's obviously going to stop crying. So Kieko's logic is very literal, and because of that, she has trouble understanding other people, and other people have trouble understanding her. And so Kieko does end up finding some solace in this convenience store. Her whole life and routine is structured around working at this convenience store. She finally has a groove, and she's finally sort of starting to fit into larger society because she knows what those expectations are while she's working there. But then people start to question, why have you been working there for so long? Why aren't you married? You know, why don't you have kids? And she starts to think, hey, maybe it is time for a change. So this was definitely a fast and short read, but at the same time, it was very quirky and witty. And even though this book was on the shorter side, I didn't think it lacked any substance whatsoever. I love that our main character was neurodiverse, and I love the themes that were explored. This book challenges and dissects social norms and conventions, and I just found it to be super refreshing. So if that sounds interesting to you, it's one that I would actually highly recommend. Super short, super quick, and it's very witty and quirky. Okay, so now moving on to the sci-fi section. So the first book that I want to talk about in the sci-fi section is going to be Kindred by Octavia Butler. This is my first Octavia Butler book. I can't believe that it took me this long to read something by her, but I finally did, and wow, it was amazing. This was one of the best books that I read in the month of March, but it was also one of the most challenging books that I read, just because Octavia Butler is very straightforward. She doesn't sugarcoat anything, and the topics that are explored are very emotionally heavy, and they're difficult to sit in, but they're also very thought-provoking. So Kindred is a historical science fiction book with time travel in it. And in Kindred, we follow Dana, who is a Black woman living in California in the 1970s. She aspires to be a writer, and one day she is suddenly pulled back to the antebellum South, somewhere in Maryland circa 1815, somewhere in the early 1800s. So Dana is transported back to this plantation where she sees a boy that is drowning, and she does go ahead and save him. And within the next couple of weeks and months, Dana keeps getting transported back in time to save this little boy. And every time she gets yanked back in time, she stays a little bit longer in the South. She doesn't really know how to make her way back to California, to her present day, but it becomes clear to her that her prolonged stays in the South are very dangerous, especially when she doesn't know how to get back to her time. So what were my overall thoughts on this? I love this book. It was emotionally challenging and thought-provoking. It really forces you to engage and sit with very difficult topics and conversations. As I mentioned earlier, Octavia Butler doesn't hold anything back. This also has one of the best opening sentences that I've ever read. I lost an arm on my last trip home, my left arm. So right from the beginning, it's like, whoa, okay, what's going on? Let's find out. And that initial intrigue that she creates in that first sentence continues throughout. It was a very steady paced book that constantly intrigued me and kept me engaged. I also really thoroughly enjoyed Dana as a main character. She was someone that was very complex and flawed and realistic, and she showed an immense amount of strength in a situation where she was rendered powerless. Like, I wouldn't know what to do if I was suddenly yanked back in time. And she was just extremely courageous in this time of uncertainty, especially when she started to encounter more and more and more danger. Overall, this book really demonstrates how pervasive the systems of oppression are, because you have Dana, who is, a modern woman for her time, where she's out of slavery. And at first, she has this sort of outsider look when she gets pulled back in time during slavery times, and she thinks that she can use her knowledge of living in the future to negotiate and to keep herself out of harm's way. But we quickly start to see that this is a completely time period, and that may necessarily not help. So I definitely recommend this book. It was everything that I expected and more. The next book on this list is called Little Eyes, and this is by Samantha Schweblin, and this is translated by Megan McDowell. And this is a sci-fi / horror / speculative fiction book. I did already talk about this book in another one of my videos, so I'll be brief about this one. So imagine a Furby that has camera for eyes and who can follow you anywhere, and you're unable to shut it off. That is what a Kentucky is. So we have these small stuffed creatures that are connected to this anonymous global server. And in this book, humans can either be a keeper or a dweller. Keepers are humans that have Kentucky. So you are the one who is purchasing this product and bringing it into your home. Now, a dweller is a human who lies within the Kentucky. So you go online and you connect to this Kentucky, and you're essentially able to follow a human in another part of the world and be a part of their daily lives, and you're the one that controls the Kentucky. So it was a really interesting concept for me, and I had mixed feelings about it when I read it, and I still have mixed feelings about it now. There were just so many questions that came up in my mind, like why would you purchase a Kentucky at such a heavy price, because these things are pricey, for them just to come into your home, and you don't know who is watching you. It's essentially a stranger, and you can't communicate with them. They're just following you around in your household. So that was one thing. And then another thing is, like, why would you choose to be a dweller, and why would you want to go into other people's homes? But overall, this is not what the book is about. They're just details that I was specifically stuck on. So this book primarily deals with themes, and it's haunting in a way, because you get this sense of delving into people's intimate lives and sort of peeling back the layer and revealing the horrors within. And because of that, there was this Black Mirror-esque vibe about it. The book is also structured in a way as short stories, because we do follow several people in different countries, both from the dweller and from the keeper side. So because of this, there's not a lot of plot development, there's not a lot of character development. This is really focused on the theme of the book and on the atmosphere that the book creates. So overall, I thought it was a great concept, but I didn't quite enjoy the execution of it. The next book on this list is called Riot Baby by Tochi Onyebuchi, and this is a science fiction fantasy book that grapples with what it means to be Black in America. This one was another one that I had mixed feelings about, but before I go more in depth, let's talk about what this book is about. So in this book, we follow two siblings, Ella and Kev, and we follow them through different periods and different time points of their life, and because of this, we're able to get a glimpse into different historical points of time, like the Watts Rebellion that happened in the 1960s. There's also a speculative fiction dystopian element to it, as we do also get a glimpse as to how the world might be at some point, and we have this scene where police officers have body armor under their skin. And then finally, we do have fantasy elements that are thrown into this book, and they're really embodied by Kev's sister Ella. She has superpowers which aren't fully realized. From a reader's perspective, we don't really get an explanation as to how these superpowers came about, and Ella is herself trying to figure them out and coming into them and learning how to use them. They're just not fully realized within the novel, which makes sense because they're not the focus of the book. So Riot Baby is definitely a genre-bending book, and there's so many cool elements that I liked. But I think I did mention earlier that I had mixed feelings about it, and this was primarily because it's in a way told in a series of vignettes, and because I listened to it in audiobook format, I found these different parts of the story to be very disjointed. I didn't feel like the story followed one single trajectory, and because these vignettes didn't always follow a linear timeline, listening to it from an audiobook perspective, I became very confused very quickly, and these jumps at that time for me felt very jarring, and it took me out of the story. So this is the one where I want to pick up a physical copy of. I actually already requested it on Libby so that I can read it on my Kindle, because I feel like physically reading it is just going to help me connect the story. So you'll see Riot Baby in another wrap up whenever I do pick up the physical form. For now, I found the story to be very compelling. I love the way that Tochi Onyebuchi explored structural racism through a lens of sci-fi, fantasy, and speculative fiction. I thought it was very creative and unique. I just couldn't quite follow all of the elements because of the audiobook format. At least that was just me. You may not have a problem with that. So now that we're done with sci-fi, let's move on to thrillers. I do have 3 to talk about. All of the thrillers that I read this month were fantastic. I rated them all 4 out of 5. For the most part, I thoroughly enjoyed all of them. I actually think that they lean more towards the mystery, suspense, and crime genres, but hey, Goodreads classifies them as thriller. So the first book on this list is In the Woods by Tana Friend. This is a crime mystery novel, and it is part of a series of crime novels that you can read separately. You don't have to read them in order. But in it, we follow Detective Ryan, who when he was a kid was a sole survivor of an unsolved mystery where 2 of his friends go missing in the woods. Years later, he is a detective on the murder squad working with his partner Cassie Maddox, and they are assigned to a case where the body of a 12-year-old girl was found, in the same area where Ryan's friends previously went missing years and decades back. So as they start working this case about this 12-year-old girl who was murdered, they start to think that both cases may have some similarities. So this was definitely a dense book to get through. It's almost 600 pages, and the level of description in this book is extensive. It's sort of akin to Stephen King's writing in the same way that he tends to go on tangents and give extremely long descriptions. That is how this book is also structured. But what is so brilliant about this book are the characters and the character relationships and dynamics. The characters feel extremely fleshed out. I felt like I knew these characters in and out. There was no doubt in my mind that these characters were real as I was reading them. I also love how realistic the character dynamics feel in this book. There's a lot of subtle detail in the interactions that happen between the characters, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. I also really enjoyed the plot, although I will warn that because we are kind of following two separate mysteries, one being the unsolved murder of the 12-year-old girl, the other one being the unsolved case of the two boys who went missing, depending on which one you're more attached to, the ending might be unsatisfying. I personally didn't mind the ending, so I ended up having a great time with this one. The next book on this list is another one that I also listen in audiobook format, and that is They Never Learn by Lane Fargo, and this is a suspense crime novel, I would say. I also thoroughly enjoyed this one. I honestly had a great time listening to this one, and it was primarily due to our main character. So this is told in alternating points of view. So in the first point of view, we follow this badass vigilante English professor. She is really successful in her field, and her name is Scarlett, and as a hobby, she secretly kills male students who are accused of sexual assault and makes them look like suicides. Needless to say, she is very good at her hobby, and she becomes very confident because no one's able to tie the murders to her. But then the head of the psychology department starts to look at the patterns between these suicides, and she slowly starts to uncover that maybe these weren't suicides at all. So in our alternating timeline, we follow a college freshman. She is very shy, she's very timid. This is her first time being away from home. She's learning how to navigate the ins and outs of being in college for the first time, how to navigate relationships, and she's really just coming into her identity. Her life is sort of turned upside down when she witnesses an assault on her roommate, and she becomes obsessed with exposing the perpetrator. This was a really fun and fast-paced book. I was interested in both of the points of views that eventually do merge. I had so much fun reading this book, and the reason I had so much fun, I think, was because of our main character, Scarlett. She was just such a cold and calculating villain. Like, we know she's a killer from the beginning, but you can't help but root for her. She was just such a great main character and villain. I loved her. It was great. The next book on this list is called The Long Bright River by Liz Moore. And this is another mystery, suspense, crime novel, but with a little bit of drama thrown in there. It really revolves around these two estranged sisters, and this is set in the backdrop of the opioid crisis. So we do have one sister, Casey, who is struggling with opioid addiction, and we also have her sister, Mickey, who is a police officer. During this time, there's a string of unsolved murders where a perpetrator is targeting women, and when Casey goes missing, Mickey starts to think that something may have happened to her. So Mickey does go on her own investigation, and she tries to figure out where Casey is and if she's missing, and if this is related to all of the murders that are going on in her city. This was equally suspenseful and heart-wrenching at the same time. This is told in a dual timeline. We are following Mickey in the present, trying to figure out what happened to Casey. We also get glimpses into Casey and Mickey's childhood as they're growing up, and we see their mom also struggling with addiction. So Long Bright River kept me engaged the entire time. I love how the author was able to push the narrative in several different directions without it being forceful. The plot was really fluid throughout, and not once did I feel like I had to suspend my disbelief. I also really liked the way that the author tackled the destructive nature of addiction. I felt like she walked a very fine line where she portrayed how devastating it can be both for the person suffering from addiction, but also for the family members. And she really tackled this issue through a lens of compassion. I think that if you're someone that likes suspense in your books, but you also really like sister dynamics, this is one that you'll really enjoy. So those were the thriller, sci-fi, and the one contemporary book that I read in the month of March. Stay tuned for the fantasy books that I read in March. I have thought. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye!